Okay, so I've had a lot of people ask me about how I put together my ZooMed terrarium for green tree python. A fair amount of this info, I got the kind of inspiration, if you will, from Heath Meshkow. Hopefully I'm not butchering his name, at Aru Condo Fans. So the first thing you're going to do is get everything cleaned up. I use this solution in order to clean up all the water stains and that type of stuff, which is what will be on a lot of these if you bought them used especially. In this video, I'm going to be using a ZooMed 12 by 12 by 18 high. So once you have everything clean, you're going to want to get some of these zip tie cable ties. I get them from Home Depot. They're pretty cheap, and they work perfectly. I use a Dremel sanding wheel, and it fits perfectly onto one side of the square box that holds what's used to hold the cable ties. I do a 3-perch enclosure, so I'll do 6 total of these units, and then just 3 of them are sanded out so that it's a U-shaped instead of a complete square. That way the perches are removable. I then put the perches in and just kind of measure it so that it's tight. In this one I'm actually going to be using branches, but you can also use coat hangers, which are also useful. If I'm using coat hangers, I definitely sand it to give a little texture so that the snake can get a better grip on there. I kind of pressure fit them inside of the enclosure, and then mark where they're at with a removable marker on the outside of the enclosure. Then I go back, undo the double stick tape, and place the individual perch holders on there. Then I get some foam board. I think it's used for as a mat for picture framing. I get this from Hobby Lobby or Michael's craft stores, that type of place. Then I just measure how big they need to be. I measure just the glass portion so that it can fit underneath the plastic framing of the terrarium. It should be about 12 by 18, but just measure to be sure for each of the sides. I then use double stick tape. I do that in order to be able to take it all apart and put it back to exactly how it was when it was first new. I place it on each of the sides. Just go one side at a time because we're going to do a heat mat on the other side. So this is just the first side that I put the foam board on there. This is going to act as an insulation to keep the humidity and heat inside so that everything maintains stably. Then I cut out the foam board to fit the other side of the terrarium, but we're not going to put double stick tape on it or adhere it to the other side yet, as we're going to stick a heat mat on that side of it to have a heat source for the snake. So once the mat is cut to the size that you need for the heat side of the terrarium, I get out the heat tape. I use the THG heat tape. I bought it from Reptile Basics. This is a 12-inch piece of heat tape, and then I cut it to fit exactly on there. You can notice that I put the insulators on the connections of the wires so that they match up perfectly. Then I took a white pencil and just kind of outlined where that insulator is, because we're going to cut notches in the foam board in order for that to mount perfectly flat on the side of the terrarium. So you cut out the notches where those insulator clips are going to fit in, and it should look just like this when you're done. Then I lay the heat tape down on some packaging paper so it doesn't make a mess anywhere. I use this 3M high strength spray adhesive. I spray it on the opaque side of the heat tape just because I think it looks nicer with the non-opaque side against the glass. That's how I do it, but you can do it either way since there isn't a side that matters for the heat tape itself. So quickly after you get the adhesive sprayed on the backside of the heat tape, you place the heat tape on top of that foam board that you cut out, making sure that the insulator clips are lined up with the notches that you had already cut out. And then the very most important part of this entire project is that you use vegetarian refried beans. If you don't use the vegetarian variety, then the adhesive will not stick and your whole entire terrarium will fall apart and most likely the snake will die. Leave the vegetarian refried beans on there. It's a good amount of weight, but leave it on there for 30 or 45 minutes just to make sure everything's stuck on there really well. Remove the vegetarian refried beans and you'll have everything kind of lined up perfectly. It'll be stuck to the board really well, and you'll be ready to move on to the next step. All right, now you're going to use that double-sided tape again. I put it around all the edges. You can notice here I even have it kind of below at the bottom of the heat tape as well, and on the side of it. So I wanted as much on there as possible so that it's for sure to stick. I don't put any of the double-sided tape on or near the actual heat pad itself. Then apply the whole piece together and press it right into where it fits against the side of the terrarium. I'd go along with my thumb and rub kind of quickly and a lot of pressure across all the edges and kind of where I know that the double stick tape is on the back side of it. That way it'll kind of heat up a little bit and adhere to the glass really well. So after you've done that, your terrarium should look pretty much just like this. I use the ZooMeds in this instance, which has a cork board on the back of it, so you don't need to put a foam panel on the back side of it because the cork board is already going to be insulating it. On an Exo Terra, it'll have a 3D foam board, which will also act as an insulator as well. But I do end up putting the black foam board on the back side as well, just because it looks better and looks more finished. Okay, now we're going to use these little tiny, I think they're the smallest that you can get, command strip hooks. There's a bunch of them, so there's way more than you need, but you may need them for something else, so I always buy these bigger packs. I don't know how many there are, maybe 24 of these with all the adhesive as well. We're going to use those so we can hang the greenery. I kind of put them, as you can see here, placed across the top of the terrarium, and then the greenery will just hang on those and hang all the way down to the bottom of the each of the sides. I use the flat kind of greenery that I found at Hobby Lobby. I think it's the best because it kind of leaves enough space for the snake in there as well, and stays kind of flat against the sides of the wall so the snake can't get in behind it and use it as a hide and that type of thing. So once that's in, it's going to look pretty similar to this. I end up putting this moss that you can get from Hobby Lobby or Michael's down on the bottom to give it a little more natural look. Alright, so far everything's looking fantastic. The only problem you would run into at this point is that the top of these Exo Terras or the ZooMeds terrariums are entirely screened, so they don't hold heat very well, and humidity just absolutely leaks out. You can't hold any humidity in them. So for that reason, we cut out a piece of Lexan or plexiglass, whatever you use is fine. I use clear because I like to be able to kind of look into the top if the snake is facing the other direction and still be able to see his face or whatever, but it really makes no difference as long as you have a solid piece of acrylic, Lexan, polycarbonate, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever you want to use. It can be black or blue or any color that you want. I like the clear because it just kind of has a better kind of overall look, at least in my opinion. So you cut that out so that it pressure fits in there, so you're going to want to take some measurements. I use it a little further than what the actual space is so that it actually sits underneath the, just a little bit, maybe a ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch underneath the light fixture itself. Then I use the Dremel with the plastic cutting wheel, and I measure on the light hood exactly where these little notches are that kind of sit down in and kind of lock the light hood in place. For the ZooMed units, they're kind of a flat, kind of looks like a flathead screwdriver tip that hangs down off of the ZooMed light hood itself. So I just put these notches in on that. On a Exo Terra, they're a little different type notches, so you could actually just drill holes if you put them in the right place. That way the polycarbonate or the Lexan or the acrylic, whatever you're using, will sit in there flush, and the light hood will have some extra security as far as its positioning on the terrarium. All right, now you're looking good. Everything's pretty much done. You're just going to take a temperature probe from a thermostat, a quality thermostat. I use Herpstat, but you could use anything else that's of good quality, and put it in there. Run it through from the back. I actually hang the probe down inside the greenery, but not right against the glass itself, but maybe a couple inches off the glass. This is kind of a walkthrough or walk around of the entire setup. Right here I haven't put the foam board on the back, but I certainly do that before I put it in the place that it's going to sit permanently. Great enclosure for green tree pythons, holds the humidity really well, nice to look at. really clean and neat. I took the moss, put it on the bottom. There's a little bit of gap up on the top of the corkboard, as you can see in here, and so I stuffed some of the greenery up there, kind of gave it a little more natural look as well. These are just branches I got from my neighborhood. I cut them to size. I also put them in the oven at like 160 degrees for about 30-35 minutes, just to burn off anything that might be on there, parasites or otherwise. Really great setups. They look nice. The snakes certainly seem to thrive inside there. The Lexan holds in all the humidity and does well with the heat. Completely finished. That's an index card that I use for monitoring and keeping track of things that happen with the snake as far as feeding and sheds and that type of thing. The back panel is on this one as well, and it's up in quarantine in my office. This is the little neonate, yellow neonate that's in there currently. Does really well in there, eats, sheds, moves around, that type of thing. Been fantastic so far. Here's the same setup I did with an Exo Terra, same exact process. It's a different neonate that's in there, absolutely thriving in there, doing really well. And here's that neonate that's in there. So hope you enjoyed it, and you can message me if you have any questions, and good luck.